few minutes.
Hey, Dave. How you doing, man?
Good. As good as possible, anyways.
Yep.
Why don't we talk? A lot of guys are talking about the first time they met Shula or first memories of him. Obviously, you came in and I've never asked it. Were you happy with? Did you understand not starting right away? And did he talk to you that much about it?
Yeah. Okay. So yes. First of all, I just want to, say it's a sad day. My prayers and condolences go out to Marianne, the Shula family, Michael, David. Just really good people, and it's a sad day for Coach Shula. But a lot of great memories. Beautiful man, great person. Yes, my first memory, Dave, was coming from minicamp. Coming from minicamp, first time I met him, walked in his office. And the funny part was, before the draft, I never talked to Coach Shula or none of the scouts or anything because I didn't think they thought I was going to be available for them to draft me. So the first time I really talked to Coach Shula, besides just on the phone draft day saying, "Hey, hi, would you like to be a Dolphin?" was in his office, coming into minicamp. And I remember it was a little intimidating because, the first time you're meeting a head coach, a guy that was so successful. But I do remember what he told me was, I want you to come in good shape, be prepared to prepare yourself this summer as if you're going to come in and be the starter. And he made an impact on me right away that way. Like he believed in me. He's like, I believe in you. I want you to work that way so you can come in and compete and actually feel like you're going to compete to be the starting quarterback. And that just gave me a lot of confidence right off the bat. So that was my first meeting actually with Coach Shula. Hello?
Steve won.
Oh, Dave? Oh.
Steve
Hey,
won.
hey, Dan.
This is my first time doing this, so I'm
The coach's resume is so long, the list of achievements is so enormous. Of all of that material, what's the one or two things that most impresses you just as an observer of football?
Well, excuse me. That's a good question. I think it would be the wins. I mean, and his longevity and the players he coached. But the one thing I would think is the number of wins, over the years, and to coach for 33 years, to do it at a high level like he did it. And you see, I mean, coaches today and the way they are, they're amazed by what Coach Shula was able to do for so long and to do it at such a high level. So, I mean, that to me, that's probably the one thing that was so amazing, to do it over such a long time at a high level.
Chris Perkins.
Hey, Dan, I wanted to
Chris.
ask you, how are you doing?
Good, man.
Been better, right? We've all been better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the type of coach and person that you saw in Don Shula, because we talked to guys from the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, and they said that the guy had mellowed. He had developed this great sense of humor. So I'm wondering how he was when during your playing career.
So this was after he was done coaching. You're talking about the sense of humor. So no, when I came in, he was tough. Tough and very demanding, and he led by example. So he expected you to come in and be the best you could be every day. And, he always had a winning attitude, that whole thing. It was always projected every day, always projected. But I would say with me and the fact that we had the group with, Duper and Clayton and Nat Moore and all that, he was willing to, open up to other thoughts, other things in football that he wasn't used to beforehand. And the one thing for me is he was very demanding, but also he would listen to your ideas and listen to your thoughts. And maybe he wasn't that way in the 60s and the 70s with, the teams that were the perfect seasons. But, with me, he was great that way. And hopefully that's answering your question.
Cam Wolf.
Know that early on, like you mentioned, those 60s and 70s teams, they were very run heavy. And then you got to you and you were throwing the ball all over the place. How did you see him maybe evolve to your skill set and being able to, let you be the quarterback you were?
Yeah, and I think that is what a great coach, a coach like Coach Shula or any great coach would do is you evolve to the talent that you have and their abilities and what they can do best. And, I think he noticed that we had two really special guys on the outside in Duper and Clayton, and the fact that I was coming in and a quarterback that had a chance to be pretty darn good. And, you evolve to that. And that's what, he was doing as a head coach. And that's just being smart. I mean, I remember telling people how, he told me to come in and learn the playbook in a way that he wanted me to call my own plays in practice and in camp and mini camp and all that. And I thought that was genius because he put a lot more pressure on me as a quarterback to learn quicker. And I feel like I was able to start and play a lot quicker because of that reason, because of that pressure he put on me. And, I always thought that was genius with him.
Jim Barry.
Hey, Dan. Good.
Hey, Jim.
Good to talk to you, man. You just talked about that trust factor, Dan, and so I'm wondering how that might have furthered your personal relationship with Coach Shula, because I always had the sense that it went beyond, coach and quarterback, that it evolved into like almost father and son.
Well, there's no doubt that I had nothing but respect for Coach Shula and, how he was as a person. You think about, I've talked about it before. I mean, he helped me as a player, but he also helped me how to develop as a human being. Coming to Miami, I was 21 years old. And just to watch him and how he handled the press, how he handled his business, everything he did as a person in the community, all those things, you admired as a young guy. And he taught me all that. So from that standpoint, yes, I say as a mentor, as I guess a father figure, he wasn't. My father was the best. That's for sure. He was a better coach than Coach Shula was. So, but as a mentor and all that, yes, for sure. And I think I always had that relationship with him, and he always was there to give me advice, to take care of me when I needed it. And after he retired, he became a really good friend and someone that I always enjoyed being around.
We'll do one more question from Peter King.
Hey, Dan, how are you doing?
Hey, Peter. Hey, you coming out of nowhere here, man.
Oh, well. Hey, sorry for your loss. I know how close you were to Coach Shula. I always thought, and I'm going to ask you about a specific game. I always thought that the fake spike game was a really interesting example of how Don Shula coached and how he taught, because the one thing I always thought about him was how he enabled his coaches to coach and how he enabled his players to play. And if you saw something, go ahead and act on it. And I just want to know if you feel that game, that example, late in that game in 1994, was any sort of illustration about how Don Shula conducted business.
Well, I think it was, you talk about illustration in his career and how he handled players and everything. And I think that was a typical example. He was a guy that understood that let your players play the game. And the example of that is he let all his quarterbacks call his own plays. I didn't. I mean, I did a little bit at first and at times later on in my career, 2-minute offense, all that. He let his guys take care of their business on the field. And that was an example of that because It was something that we had practiced, and Bernie Kosar brought the fake spike play with him from Cleveland. Coach Shula, we practiced it a lot. You always knew it was there, and it was one of those things that it was the perfect timing. He let you do it, and in that game, he let me kind of take over the second half and do my thing to be able to bring us back. But that goes back to me saying that he was, he evolved in a way from, the old running game and the things, pound the ball with the teams he had before, to let his players play and understand the personnel he had. And, it just smart that way. There was a lot of examples of how he was able to do that as a coach, and, just the people he had and the coaches he had. And it was special.
All right, Dan, appreciate you joining us.
Oh, hey guys. Well, thanks again. And we lost a great man today, and God bless him and his family. We're all going to miss him. All right. Thank you guys for showing up and being a part of this.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. Thank you.